So I'm joined by Simon from Tanita, and he's going to be looking at the future of fitness is wellness led, and diving into some engaging content here and also some research that I know Tanita are looking at in this space. So before I do hand over to Simon, just a few things. If you do want to ask, I think everyone's found the chat, but if you do want to ask any questions around the presentation or anything else, then please do type those into the chat and we'll do. I know we're going to be a little bit pushed for time, so maybe we'll just get back to you via email for the kind of the Q&A. Simon, I know you're going to share your email at the end. So yes, so thank you for joining, and I'll hand over to Simon now for our exciting content from Tanita.
Thank you, Joe. Yes, less of an introduction then for me, so we don't run over too much. But I'm wary at least some of the people on the call I don't know if I'm too familiar with. Apologies if everybody knows me and I have just pretended not to know you now. But just in case you're not familiar with who I am, my name's Simon. I'm currently the head of fitness sales for Tanita Europe. Previously to that, I worked in professional sports as a strength and conditioning coach, and now in a commercial role with Tanita, blending that experience hopefully quite nicely, where we have a fantastic product linked up with a good understanding of the fitness industry and health in general with our team, so we can contribute to things like this, where we can hopefully thought-provoking and engaging material for you to dive a little bit deeper in afterwards. Because even though we are pushed for time now, I'm going to keep to all the slides, and we are just really top lining the information. There could be several conversations after this, which I'm always really happy to have if something in particular engages with you. My contact details, if you don't have them, will be shared at the end, and I'm happy to follow up this conversation with anybody because it's a big topic. You know, fitness and wellness are big topics within themselves. Combining the two into one makes it a gigantic opportunity and a gigantic topic for us to cover. But what I'm personally really passionate about, and I have a real belief that as a fitness industry, we have to lean into this wellness trend, as some people are currently calling it, as much as possible. But it absolutely is not a trend. Health is not a trend. Wellness is not a trend. Wellness is the genuine sustainable future for fitness. Fitness fads and trends come and go all the time. Some have more longevity than others, but you could probably list off a thing, five or six things now that have come and gone in the fitness industry over the past 10, 15, 20 years. Somebody wanting to be healthy and live a weller life is not a trend. That is has done. What we are starting to see changing, though, is members' expectations from what the gym offers to them. And members are now expecting more than just a space to work out in, or they're expecting more than just you giving them workouts to do. They're expecting to be able to genuinely feel better as a result. And there's a distinguish there between feel better and look better, an intentional difference for me. They're expecting to feel better and they're expecting to live better lives as a result. We now have more knowledge at our fingertips than at any point in history. People are becoming so much more informed about the impact sleep has on their life, the impact that stress has on their life. And they're looking for support in how to manage that and improve those things. And as a fitness industry, a lot of that knowledge and a lot of that skill lies with us. Just people don't necessarily come to us to look for the answers. And that's why we have to lean into it. If we do, wellness can facilitate deeper connections with our members. And the better connections we have with our members, the better service we provide them, then commercially, the more likely they are to stick around and the higher your retention rates will become. Now, I mentioned service as an intentional word then, because for me, there's one underlining theme. In a shift to wellness, a gym has to stop being a service provider and start to become a community centre. Start to become somewhere people go to feel better and to live better, not where people go to work out. So we've got to stop thinking of ourselves as providing a service and start thinking of ourselves as providing opportunities for people to live healthier, better lives. And this is such a wide spectrum of people. It didn't take a great deal of research to find these figures coming from the UK market that essentially at both ends of the spectrum, younger people and older people, there is an increase in health awareness, a demand for health, the focus that people are putting on health and physical activity. Gen Z now see gym going as an essential rather than an option. My generation, generation before me, going to the pub was an essential. Going for a night out was an essential. Those are the things we essentially did and we found budget for. Sometimes I still struggle to believe it, but every bit of data backs it up that the generations now, younger generations now, are prioritizing going to the gym and a healthy lifestyle in terms of their budget spend. You know, there's stats on there about 16 to 22-year-olds. 44% of them rank fitness in their top two spending priorities. And on average, this group spends about £48 per month on fitness. It's a 17% year-on-year increase. So as commercial operators, which we are in fitness, whether you operate one gym, 1,600 gyms, leisure centres, we are all commercially viable businesses. We have to be. And there is a big market there in young people willing to provide them the right experience and right service. And at the opposite end of that spectrum, 55 to 74-year-olds are the main contributors to physical activity levels rising in the UK. There is an additional 1.9 million people becoming active in the UK within that age range. That's a phenomenally growing market. That again, if you offer the right opportunities, the right experience for these people, often that is the end of the market with the most disposable income. They're willing to spend the most or can spend the most in living a healthier life. But ultimately, right back to the start where I talked about, fitness and this preconception of what a gym offers. A gym is, we all know, a place where you can be healthier. But not everybody always appreciates that. They think it's a place you can become fitter. But if you shift that focus to health and you get your messaging and your experiences right around health, then health matters to everybody. Fitness, maybe not so, but health matters to everybody. And therefore, as an operator, you start more and more people. More and more people walk through your doors, more and more people stay through your doors, and they don't get distracted by other special offers being put on somewhere else. Now, for some people, this is a genuine shift to wellness. For some people, it might just be about looking at what you do and tweaking a thing or two. You may already have a really strong focus here. But when we come to this, we look at changing expectations. Members, the typical gym member now is getting a very different expectation on what they want to experience when they go to the gym. It's no longer just a space to work out. It is a space to relax, a space to socialize, a space to ultimately become healthier, but not always necessarily in just physiological ways. Mental well-being is currently, in some studies, the number one reason now why people join a gym. It's no longer weight loss. It is to feel better, mentally feel better. That awareness of how our bodies operate and the stress that we can be under through, digitalization of life and working lives. People are now joining the gym for stress relief and mental reasons, and they're aware of that, as opposed to potentially maybe 10, 15 years ago, we joined the gym and that was a byproduct. We kind of knew we were joining because we felt better mentally and physically, but we didn't really speak about that bit as much, or we didn't focus on that bit as much. And now it is the number one reason people are joining health and fitness clubs. But in order for that to be effective for you, and for you then to feel the benefits on retention, then you've got to offer things that are relevant. And fitness, if we think of the fitness product of exercise, training, workouts, yeah, that's relevant to a relatively small amount of people. We have a saturation point in the market of around 16 to 18% in the UK. And of that 16 to 18%, not all those people are actively engaged in workouts. So it's an even smaller percentage that workouts is relevant for. So what we have to start thinking about is what is relevant within this scope of wellness. What's relevant for my facility, my community? It could be nutrition, could be recovery protocols, could be mental well-being, could just be a nice safe space for people to come and socialize in. And not all these things are going to be suitable in every environment, but this wider scope is what there is a demand for. And if we can start to meet that demand as an industry, the opportunity is huge for how we can grow and have a sustainable future for each facility. And it's about starting to care for members. Now, I'm not saying for a second we haven't cared about members previously and historically in the fitness industry. We definitely do care about members. But we had a pretty rudimental offering to them. It was, we can provide you with workouts. What is your goal? And it's fat loss or it's muscle build. Typically, it's fat loss. Yeah, here's your workout. And we'll check in on them. We'll check progress. We'll try and support it. But now those holistic demands are much wider. Therefore, what you offer and what you engage your members with has got to be wider too. And if you start to then show that actually we do care about you as a person because there's this workshop, there's this offering, there's of course transformation programs and access to the gym floor, obviously. But all these things in addition, then people start to see that this is a place where I do become healthier. This is a place where I can now start to live a better life, whatever that might look like for different people, because of the multitude of things on offering, not just there's our gym floor, what do you want to improve, which is what has typically been people's perception of the fitness industry. And this is something that if I've spoken to you for at least an hour or more previously, I've probably spoke around this line before in that people's perception of a gym is not what we think it is, or it's often not what we think it is. We know, working in the health and fitness industry, a gym is a place you go to be healthier. No matter what your goal is, really. You can utilize a gym as a facility to become healthier. What people on the other side of that wall see is they see a gym where you go to train, to exercise, to get the men's fitness cover body model look. And if that's not you, then the gym isn't for you. The gym isn't a safe space where I can go and be myself and live and feel better. That's not the perception. The perception is not this is a place I get healthier. The perception is this is a place I get fitter for a vast, vast amount of the population. Now, there's a huge opportunity right now with more people being engaged in health and wellness than ever before. There's a huge opportunity to rephrase this fitness world as a gateway to wellness. You might not be able to offer all the solutions, but you can definitely engage people in them. You can maybe signpost people to other facilities, to other partners in your community. And that community cohesion then can create a much healthier space for people to live. You don't have to have all the answers, but if we genuinely want to reframe fitness as a gateway to well-being, we should be able to engage people in those answers. And I think during the slides that come, there are quite a few quotes. I'm going to pretend all the quotes are from me. It could well be somebody on this call has given me one of these quotes before. So if you do, I apologize for my plagiarism. But I like a quote. They try and stick in the memory a little bit more than just, slides and phrases. And the gym, the gym for a lot of people is the place they go to. They go to train. They go to the gym 3 times a week. It's their habit. These are our typical gym members. If we want to grow into this wellness space, then a gym is a place that you have to grow as a person. You, yes, become fitter if that's your goal. But a gym is the place where you go because there's some nutritional support there. There's some, sleep workshop there. Whatever it is that's impacting your life and whatever barrier it is that you're wanting to try and get past, the gym health club can be the place where you go to get this support. But it has to be available. It has to be on offer for people. And we have to communicate that message in an effective way because people are not looking to us. People who want to lose weight, very few of them look to the gym because the gym is hard work to lose weight. People often want the easiest route, the simplest route. And the gym isn't always the easiest and simplest route because it is hard work. If you train and you exercise and you want that to impact your life, then there's a bit of hard work involved. And that's not what people often go looking for. They go looking for the easiest route. So you have to get your messaging right. You've got to get the communication right. If you start to build these wellness levels to your facility, then you have to communicate about them in a way that those people will engage with and where those people are looking. Because they're often not looking for you and your facility because they don't think you can help them. So the communication is equally as important as the offering that you're presenting to them. And what does that offering look like? Now, we could do, a whole day's workshop on what could a wellness offering look like for a gym. So this is very, very top line. It's very introductory to get people sort of thinking about what could you do and what could you do differently if you think you're already a few steps forward here. How can you take a few steps more? Or how can you add a few more steps into that process? But ultimately, we want people to start thinking about movement is medicine. And that's definitely not my quote. That's why it's not in the slides. But it's one that I want more and more people to start to engage with because you don't have to come to the gym and train like you're preparing for High Rocks or Mr. Olympia. Of course you don't. But genuinely, that's what people's preconceptions are. I'm only going to go to the gym if I'm training for something. Or if I go to the gym, I'm going to start looking like Arnie in the 80s because it's that easy, right? That's just what happens when you walk through a gym and lift up some dumbbells. Suddenly you look like Men's Health cover model. Of course it isn't. But people's perceptions are different to what we think they often are because we're in this really small bubble of fitness industry and health professionals who, we people don't think and act like us. We're in a niche of a niche, the niche of the 16 to 18% who go to the gyms. We're in a niche of that sector. And we have to think wider. How do we communicate and how do we present our opportunities and our thoughts to these people in a much wider way? And there are things really, really simply that you can do that make a huge difference. One is you can track progress. And obviously working for Tanita, tracking progress is what we do. We have a nice integration with ClubWise where people can track it on their mobile phones. They can walk up to a Tanita machine, track their progress on their phone. But how do we communicate about that? Because for some people, it's about tracking fitness. For some people, it's about tracking health. So it's looking at what information is available. What do people want to improve? And what do we want people to improve? Because they're sometimes very, very different things. Now, we know we want people to improve and track their health. So setting people metrics about tracking health. Is your hydration improving? Is your body fat improving if that's the goal? But also then fitness metrics. You've got things like Hyrox is, if we're talking about short-lived trends, will we be talking about Hyrox in 10 years' time? I don't know. Possibly, possibly not. CrossFit nobody thought CrossFit would really go away. It boomed, and now nobody talks about CrossFit. Everybody talks about high rocks, you know? If anything, trends are things like this. But trends are what people engage with in the short term. So, alongside tracking health and those physiological metrics that people want and people need to progress, you can be tracking people's fitness. You know, how are they improving in whatever aspect of fitness they want to improve? It could be the sort of stereotypical CrossFit WODs. It could be the more, should we say, open to everybody or open to more people, should we say, definitely not everybody, open to more people, high rocks style events. Could it just be that you couldn't stand up unaided and now you can stand up unaided? Are we tracking things like this with our members? We should be, whether they're lifestyle factors or whether they're fitness factors. We should be tracking them. The tools exist, and you should be utilizing them to further engage and support your members. And a lot of that then comes down to education. A lot of members might not know what visceral fat is, so why would they want to track it? Sarcopenia, the loss of muscle mass and function as we age. Do members even know what it is? No, is the answer for most of them. So why would they want to track it? They have to be educated on it first. They have to understand the value of it and why it is important. And once they understand the why, then it becomes the powerful thing that keeps them in the gym. It becomes the powerful thing that integrates them into your facility. And you no longer become the place that they just go to because they have to, or they go to just to train. You're the place they're going to become healthier and to live healthier lives. So integrating services in that are maybe not your as an individual or your trainer's skill set, but there are a number of companies you can collaborate with. There are a number of people that you can bring in to amplify what your facility offers. Could be around nutrition, could be around GLP-1, which I'm sure if you're an operator of a gym right now, this is on your radar. It should be. We will touch on it shortly. Could be mental well-being. That might not be something you as an individual have experience and knowledge in dealing with, but there's probably a demand from your gym members to look at this or to workshop this or to try and do something around this. Who can you collaborate with? Who can you work with? How can you upskill your team to be able to offer it? These are the things that we can integrate into our stereotypical gym offer that leans us into the wellness space relatively easily. We've got now, years of experience as Tanita working with some of the biggest health and fitness operators in the world, all the way through to personal trainers, personal training studios, independents on the sort of cold face of things. And we see an increase in things like what's on the screen now becoming much more prevalent. So rather than looking at fat as a guidance, rather than looking at fat as the thing that somebody is focusing on, how can we shift that conversation where people still lose body fat because they need to, but the focus is on something else? And with Tanita, there is a measurement called metabolic age. And there is now a lot of activation, a lot of really, really cool stuff going on. I know if anybody has spent any time talking with someone like Guy Griffiths, for example, then he's really passionate about shifting this conversation away from like fat loss to becoming younger, becoming healthier. Body fat transformation to 5 years younger transformation. It's more interesting. It's more engaging. It's a little bit different to the competition, maybe in your environment, but it's a different message that appeals to a different audience. It does the same thing. It makes somebody healthier, but how you communicate it is significantly different. Sarcopenia we mentioned, sleep we mentioned. How informed, how educated are your members on the importance of these things? Could you educate them? You might need to educate the staff first. Education is key to this whole process. And again, something we will touch on about how we can educate and upskill our staff to enable us to do this. But What offerings away from the gym floor can you put in? It could be a focus on sarcopenia. Because if you show that value to people, particularly members age 50 plus, then they feel seen. They feel more valued. Ah, now that's me. I identify with that. I am the person at risk of frailty in the next 10 to 15 years if my muscle mass isn't where it should be. And this is the place I can now see helping me with that. Why am I going to go elsewhere? I am further embedded into this community if you're helping me live a healthier and better life. Even the most simple of all the things for me around education and information is if you've got access to this data, if you've got body composition analysis, for example, such as Tanita, then all of those metrics that come out of it, make them relevant, communicate with people about them. Create a measurement of the month where you inform, you educate, you support members around visceral fat, let's say, because people are not too familiar with what that is. They know what body fat is, of course they do, but they don't necessarily know what visceral fat is. They don't know the impact it can have on their life, and they don't really know then, do I have to do something different to get rid of visceral fat to body fat? The engagement is immediate. You have to sort of feed the funnel in order for the engagement to come out of the other side. And this list could be the whole slide. This whole talk for 45 minutes could be about this bit, about what you can actually do with people to sort of lean into the wellness space in a really simple but effective way. But ultimately, it has to engage people. And if it's relevant, then it will engage people. So Gym A and Gym B could be very, very different. Leisure Centre A, Leisure Centre B could be very different, serving very different communities with a very different member demographic. So the same thing won't work. You have to look at what's relevant for you and your members, or what's relevant for who you want to appeal to, and then create some engagement around that. Because if you have engagement and relevance, then that's real, real value. And if people see value, then they don't go anywhere. When the gym around the corner puts their special offer on, or when the gyms that we all know have the power to do this drop membership prices to basically, a coffee a day or a coffee a week rather as their membership fees, you can't you can't win that battle on price in a fitness market anymore. And you shouldn't want to win the battle on price. You should want to win the battle on value because value is what keeps people with you. Value is what makes people pay a little bit more if they see the value. But to do that in the wellness space, it's got to be relevant. You can't just throw anything at it and hope something sticks. What is relevant for you? What is relevant for your members? Or what is relevant for the people that you want to appeal to? And this is where GLP-1 in particular, I feel, is one of the biggest opportunities for the fitness industry in a generation, if not the biggest opportunity for the fitness industry in a generation. We're not going to delve too much into GLP-1 today, but if it is something that interests you, the next slide will cover a bit more detail on it. But I've now had at least 50 conversations with gym owners and operators about GLP-1. Some are frightened to death of it and think it will be the end of the industry. They're losing members because they're taking the easy route. I don't know, GLP-1 is not an easy route. We see some of the side effects, but it's that perceived easier route. I don't have to exercise, I don't have to train, I will lose weight. Yeah, studies show you probably will. So people are losing members to this, they're losing clients to this, and they see it as a threat. It is not a threat, it is a huge opportunity. Because in order for GLP-1 as a intervention to be successful and sustainable, then it really needs to be accompanied with exercise and activity, particular resistance-based and strength activity. And it's one of the fastest growing health interventions in living memory. It's different now to what it was 12 months ago. In less than 12 months, there'll be oral GLP-1, so no longer injection. That's possibly going to put up the uptake of it by 200 to 300%, some people think. It is not going away. It is a huge opportunity to focus not on weight loss, but on weight health with people. And that's definitely a quote I've stolen from the HFA Congress a couple of weeks ago. And it really stuck with me. Weight loss versus weight health. People want to lose weight. Well, if you want to lose weight, go get food poisoning because you will lose weight in the short term in a really terrible way because you will not be healthier at the end of it. We have to get people to think about weight health. And GLP-1 is exactly the same. People will take this medication. The majority of people will take this medication because they want to lose weight. They want to lose body fat. They don't necessarily end up healthier at the end of that process if they're also losing significant amounts of muscle mass. And studies are starting to show, or studies are showing, that muscle mass is lost. Of course it is. Muscle mass is lost with almost any significant weight loss. But if people supplement GLP-1 with resistance exercise, it's more impactful. There's more longevity there. So there's a real opportunity to support people taking this medication, not to sort of blank them, ignore them, lose them as members, but again, to really lean into it and look at maybe even bespoke memberships for people taking the medication. What support do they need? And what support can you offer? Because if you can do that, you can capture this loyalty from a high spending demographic. These drugs are not cheap. People are really investing in this. Therefore, you either need to compete a bit for the disposable income, or they have the disposable income to lean on a supportive network to make sure the impact they have from this is as high. So it is a huge opportunity for the fitness industry. But there's a lot of fear around it. There's a lot of associated threats to a gym from people looking at another option to become healthier. So what we're doing as Tanita is we're teaming up with experts because I am definitely not an expert in this. I have lots of opinions. They're not always the right opinions. I always have an opinion though, and we try and supplement those with some expert knowledge. So alongside Dr. Lou Atkinson, we're looking at putting together this framework that helps gym operators and gym owners put together interventions and programs or just support for people taking GLP-1 medication. Now, last week we held three meetings with gym operators, and there was nearly 30 gym owners, mainly independents, came onto those calls and shared with us their experience, what they're trying to achieve, what they're seeing in terms of threats. And at the Independent Gyms Conference next month, myself, Dr. Lou, and one or two of these gym owners will sort of start to present our findings and start to structure this framework together, this guidance. You know, we don't want it to be prescriptive, but we see a lot of concern or some concern in the industry, and we want to try and support the operator, support you guys with here's what you could do, here's the knowledge you do need, or what do you need? And it shouldn't be rather something you're ignoring as an operator. It should be something you're aware of and you're trying to work with, not against. Because my fear is if you try and work against it, there's probably only going to be one winner with the expansion of this. There's a huge opportunity to work with it. So if that's something that interests you or you want to find out more about, our open group of fitness operating collaborators, there's always an open table to come and join us. So that's something we can pick up a conversation with afterwards. But ultimately, what we're hearing from a lot of gyms is it comes down to staff knowledge and staff confidence. If you're not knowledgeable and confident in something, you are not going to focus on it, or you're not going to execute it as well as you possibly could. So if you've already decided we need to do more in the wellness space, not just the fitness space, and you're starting to take some steps in there, or you think you're already several steps in there, then you've got to get your team on board. It's great if you as the owner or you as the operator or the ops manager or whatever role it is, say, this is what we're doing and this is how we're going to do it. Perfect. But if that buy-in doesn't come from the bottom up, if your team are not supported, trained, educated in this space, then it won't work, or it won't work as well as it potentially could do. Training is always something from a Tanita perspective I've put lots and lots of focus on during the past 7 or 8 years because I see gyms and operators that are knowledgeable and confident in our technology, it becomes a real integral part of their business plan. Those that are not as knowledgeable and not as confident, it becomes what they use to track progress with. Still a fantastic tool, but a progress tracker, not a strategic part of their business. This is the same. If you want to lean into wellness, if you want to try and do something more in this space, then you have to empower your staff, you have to empower your team. Give them some targets, get them talking about wellness when they talk to members. Make those interactions specific, not just generic welcomings, but specific things about how is somebody feeling or what do they want to achieve this week? Have they got a target in mind? Whatever it might be, celebrating staff that go beyond fitness. And I realize I'm being quite, because I think that helps the context that I'm trying to come from. But if you've got staff who are going beyond fitness, who are already doing this, then celebrate that. You know, hold them up as a good example for other staff to sort of try and copy the mold of. But you've got to provide them tools to do it. You've got to provide them resources to do it. You've got to train them. And not just train them once, but train them on an ongoing basis. Ongoing training for staff, I think, is essential in general, but particularly in such a fast evolving world as GLP-1, for example. What we know now will be different in 6 months and probably different again 6 months later as it adapts to sort of the real world. If your staff are not on that journey, if your staff are not being informed as you go, it will be less impactful. Paul, you might recognize some of these pictures here, actually, because what they do within Wigan is they're already starting to do this really well in that they have memberships, members being supported sort of 360 degrees, not just on the gym floor, but out in the community. Everything, a lot of the things that I speak about are not Simon ideas. Definitely not Simon ideas. They're things I've seen work in the real world, and then we can bring them together and hopefully inform and educate a wider audience. And Paul, who's on the call at Wigan Active, are a really, really good example of community health and community well-being, not just leisure centres with gyms, but looking at wellness services, looking at what they can offer differently in the location, becoming a health partner, not a workout provider. This is another really, really key concept. Whatever your brand is, whether it's local authority leisure, whether it's an independent gym, are you a workout provider or are you a health partner? Do you want to be a health partner? Are you happy being a workout provider? Then great. The lead, but we said right back at the start, health matters to everybody. So if you want to grow, if you want to become a more sustainable business, if you want to increase revenue, add members, and you should be focusing more on health because that's where the wider audience is. And if you're being seen then as a health partner, not just a space someone can go to train, then you're on the right path for this for sure. Because that's where the future lies. The future lies in a more informed audience than ever before. I'd say a more educated audience than ever before, but I don't think that's the right word because having access to information does not make you educated in that space. And that's what we have now. We have information at our fingertips beyond anything we've ever had before. What people do with that information is going to be so mixed. And that's where you, as a fitness and health operator, you can have the most impact, helping people do something with the information that they have, because they will need support. Do they come looking for it from you? Maybe not. That's where that messaging and your communication is really, really key. And we often get asked, as we sort of come to a close now, we often get asked about like how. If we've got members and we want to focus more on health with them, not the traditional sort of fat loss member, shall we say, but what does that member flow look like? What does the member journey look like? And again, there isn't a cut and paste answer because it depends on who you are and what you do and what your audience is. But I've tried to put it into four categories. And the four categories can then be as bespoke as you need them to be. But initially, there has to be some discovery. They have to know about you and what you have to offer them. And that's where that relevance comes in. If it's relevant, it will engage them. And this is where discovery is key to it all. If people don't know you exist, if people don't know you offer that service, then how do they take you up on it? So discovery is key. You have to market wellness as a core value, health as a core value of your operation. And once they've discovered you, then how are you onboarding them? And I know onboarding is one of those words that some people like now spit on the floor when you say onboarding. You can't say onboarding anymore. It's about activation or whatever other key buzzword you might want to put in there. But essentially, it's onboarding. What do you do with them once they step through your doors, or even before they step through your doors? Is there a health assessment, for example, looking beyond weight or beyond what they initially talk to you about? Do you set goals beyond fitness goals, beyond health goals? Are you talking about sleep? Are you talking about mental well-being? Are you talking about these are the things with them from that very point in their journey with you? Because if you are more likely to hit a point of engagement, something that really gets them on board, something that resonates with them beyond what they either think they need or they were knowledgeable about before. If you're putting something new in front of them in that onboarding phase, the obvious example is the 50-year-old who joins and is focused on, weight loss. And then you start talking to them about sarcopenia and the importance of muscle mass. I mean, that could actually be the thing that engages them and becomes the core reason that they stay. The loyalty is then built from seeing the ongoing results from the community support, the additional things they get alongside the gym floor. That's then what loyalty is retention and loyalty is referrals. People talk about you. If they're loyal to you and they like you as a person, as a brand, they talk about you in a positive way. That leads more people to your doorstep. So this member journey flow is really, really sort of vague in terms of detail because it has to be. Because this is different if you're a leisure centre to a big box operator to a PT studio. But these four categories, the discovery, the onboarding, then the engagement, which leads to the loyalty, and then what do you do to, ongoing loyalty? Those four things I don't think change no matter what type of facility you're operating. Now, the final thing, because I'm trying to bring it all together, because I'm conscious I maybe did speak at 1.5 podcast speed to try and make up some time. So, trying to round things off together is what I would encourage everybody to do. If this is something that interests you, have a look at what you currently do, but look at it with some honesty, or even better, get because sometimes you look at it and go, yeah, we're doing wellness stuff. We'd be doing that and that. And then somebody else looks at it and goes, yeah, that's what you were doing 15 years ago, and that's just the body fat loss. Yeah, people end up healthier, but it's not the wellness shift. Objectively, try to look at what you're offering, audit it. What do you think is missing? What could you add? Partnerships are key. Anybody who has worked with me or knows me in any professional capacity, partnerships are huge. Partnerships mean you do things better because you either offer a better solution or you offer more information or more education. You try and do things on your own, they're never as good, I don't think. You always need partners. And as a gym owner, as a gym operator, maybe it's nutrition that isn't particularly your strength. So do you need a partner in nutrition? Do you need uh, uh, a third party platform, something like a Benefit who can provide nutrition platform for you? Is the physical therapy something that you would be interested in? You think there's a demand within your facility, but you don't have the qualifications or the skill set. Whatever it is, partnerships exist. People want to collaborate. It helps brands, it helps people. So develop them. develop partnerships, collaborate with the wider world. Don't try and do everything yourself. Upskill your team. You have to upskill your team. You have to educate your team. If you're an operator and there isn't a demand on your team to continually improve their knowledge, then there really should be. The team I now manage for fitness in Europe, every year we put the team through some kind of education, be it internal, it could be commercially focused, could be sales focused, because that's what the team do ultimately. It could be around bringing experts in for GLP-1. So they get some first-hand experience and some real knowledge about what we want to speak to customers about. You have to upskill your team constantly. And that should be for me, a top-down approach. It should be an expectation. And then you provide the resources for it. Of course you do. But you set the expectation, you provide the resources, and you end up with the better team. And then the retention of your team, as well as your members, also improves as a result because they feel valued. They enjoy going to work. They feel more fulfilled. It's a win-win-win if we can do that. And then the important thing is communication. You can have the best systems in place, the best opportunities, the best experience, and if no one knows you're doing it, then no one's going to come to it. So you have to market wellness as your differentiator. Market wellness as one of your USPs, so people know it's something you offer, or people know this is accessible and available from you. Because if you're a gym, people's perception is possibly, no, this is not what you do. You're the weights place. That's not for me. You've got to market it. You've got to show what you do and how you're doing it. Show them the relevance, and then get them through that 4-point member journey system. And to close with two last things. One is another quote that I've definitely stolen from somewhere because I'm not intelligent enough to think up things like this. But when we tell people fitness changes us aesthetically. It changes us in a health way as well, of course it does. But people associate fitness with aesthetics, with, six packs and cover model bodies. Fitness changes bodies, but wellness genuinely changes people's lives. Could be mental capacity, could be sleep, could be physiology, becoming healthier than they ever have been before, increased muscle mass, losing body fat, whatever it is, because it all fits into wellness. But wellness changes people's lives. Your gym, your club can be more than just the gym, but you have to be the driver behind it. It doesn't just happen naturally. If this is something that is genuine of interest to you, then there is quite an interesting, really new book by some people whose names will likely be familiar to you if you're involved in the UK fitness industry. I'm still very upset they didn't ask me to contribute to this, actually. I don't know why I'm promoting it for them, but it's a really interesting read. I've read it. If you're interested in this, like rise of well-being, thinking beyond the gym floor, this is it's a really cool resource, I would say, for you to start to think about the different ways in which you can do things. And then finally, if nobody has my contact details already, this is me. I am very, very open to having these conversations with people, whether you have Tanita technology, you don't have Tanita technology, you have a competitor's technology. I generally don't care. This is something I'm very passionate about. I think the future of fitness is wellness. That's where we grow as an industry. That's where we get to 20% penetration, 25% penetration, and higher, because we become relevant to more people if we shift the focus. So if you want to converse with me, pick my brains on it, shout swear words at me because you disagree with everything I've said, it's all good. Here's my details. And I think I just about managed 45 minutes,
I think you
which is
did. I think you pretty much, or
unheard of.
50 minutes. That's pretty good. Very good.
Yeah,
Um,
50 minutes. I can get 5 minutes leeway. Thank you, Joe.
Thanks, Simon. That was great. And I think really insightful there. Some of the big opportunities, hopefully, for gyms, clubs, especially around GLP-1. You're getting congratulations there, so that's good. If anyone
Type
has
of
any
role.
questions, I would say either email Simon, or you can email me, or just pop them in the chat there. I know we are way over time now, and apologies for that. Thank you everyone for bearing with us with our audio issues. But we will be, obviously this is recorded, so we'll edit it and we'll send it out to everyone. Thanks, Mandy, for your comment. So all good, and thank you, Simon. We hope to do a lot more of these with audio, so all good. And yeah, thanks very much.
Thanks, everybody. Appreciate
Thank
it.
you. All right, thanks, Simon.